Hello there, welcome to my channel. Tonight, we're drifting into the gentle and often unnoticed world of flowers. We admire them for their colors and scents, but their true story goes far beyond what our eyes can see. Every blossom is the result of countless generations of what looks fragile often hides remarkable resilience. What appears simple is built on a quiet intelligence that helps flowers sense their surroundings and respond in ways that feel almost unbelievable. A flower can influence the behavior of insects. It can shift its chemistry to defend itself or welcome a pollinator at the exact moment it is needed. It can fine-tune its temperature, guide the flow of air, and read the light with incredible precision. These abilities stay hidden, yet they shape the natural world in profound ways. If you enjoy these peaceful explorations, feel free to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps other sleepy travelers find their way here as well. For now, though, your only task is to rest. Let your body soften, let your mind settle, and allow the beauty of nature to lead you toward sleep. Let's begin. Some flowers can hear the sound of bees. Inside certain blossoms, the petals work almost like tiny acoustic dishes. When a bee approaches, the vibrations from its wings ripple through the flower, causing the petals to tremble at just the right frequency. But that trembling is not meaningless. Within minutes, the plant can adjust the sweetness of its nectar, offering a richer reward exactly when a pollinator is nearby. The flower needs no ears or nervous system. Its tissues are simply tuned to the specific vibrations carried through the air, able to distinguish the low hum of a bee from the random movement of wind. This sensitivity gives the plant an advantage. Instead of constantly producing high-energy nectar, it upgrades the reward only when it's most likely to be collected. Some desert flowers bloom only after extremely rare rains. In some of the driest places on the planet, flowers follow a calendar unlike any other. Their seeds lie buried in scorching, silent soil that may go years without a single meaningful rainfall. Rather than trying to grow during drought, the seeds stay dormant alive, full of potential, yet completely still. When a rare storm finally breaks the silence, moisture sinks deep enough to trigger a chain of chemical reactions. Signals inside the seed announce that conditions have shifted from deadly to barely survivable. Germination begins across entire landscapes at once. Stems rise, buds form, and barren fields suddenly burst into color. Each plant races through its entire life cycle in a narrow window of time, producing seeds before the land dries again. Then, just as quickly as they arrived, the flowers disappear, leaving their next generation buried beneath the sand, waiting for another improbable rainfall. Some alpine flowers generate their own heat. High in the mountains, the air is thin and bitterly cold, making survival difficult for delicate floral tissues. Yet some blossoms have found an unexpected solution. They can warm themselves. The inner parts of the flower raise their temperature above the surrounding air, creating a tiny pocket of warmth. It's not enough to feel from afar, but to an insect landing on the bloom, it can mean the difference between freezing stillness and easy movement. This gentle heat also helps pollen develop properly in an environment where frost can strike even under bright sunlight. To create this microclimate, the plant increases its metabolic activity inside specific tissues, burning stored energy faster than usual. A quiet act of thermal engineering hidden among the snow. Certain flowers change color to signal. For some blossoms, color is not fixed. It's a living message that evolves over time. When a flower first opens, its petals may appear bright and inviting, a sign that nectar and pollen are plentiful. But after enough pollinators have visited, the pigments shift. The blossom fades or transforms into an entirely different shade. To us, it may just look old. To a bee or butterfly, it is a clear signal to move on and seek fresher blooms. This color shift helps both sides. Pollinators save precious time, and the plant avoids unnecessary wear on petals and pollen after reproduction is already underway. Some flowers use ultraviolet patterns as secret guides. Human eyes see only a small part of the story. Many petals are marked with patterns that are invisible to us but glow like runway lights in ultraviolet. Bees and other pollinators can see these wavelengths, so a flower that appears simple and plain to us might look like a bright target with rings, stripes, or arrows pointing directly toward the nectar. This hidden guidance system makes each visit more efficient. Insects don't need to wander, they follow the pattern instantly. At the same time, the plant increases the chances that pollen touches exactly the right place on the visitor's body. A silent visual language, painted in wavelengths we never see. Some flowers mimic the smell of rotting meat to attract flies. Not every blossom aims to smell sweet. Some species rely on creatures drawn to decay rather than fragrance, so they take an entirely different approach. Their flowers release complex chemical blends that imitate the scent of sun-baked The petals may even develop mottled colors and textures that resemble flesh. To a fly or beetle that specializes in seeking out dead animals, this illusion is irresistible. When a fly or beetle lands on these deceptive blossoms, it expects food or a place to lay its eggs. Instead, it finds chambers lined with pollen and sometimes gentle traps that hold it for a short time. As the insect struggles to escape, pollen sticks to its body in all the right spots. Once it finally breaks free and visits another flower with the same trick, the cycle quietly repeats itself. What feels unpleasant to us is simply another finely tuned strategy in the plant world. A few orchids imitate female insects to attract males. Some of the most astonishing floral illusions belong to orchids that shape their petals, colors, and even scents to resemble female insects. To a male wasp or bee, the similarity is convincing enough that it attempts courtship or even tries to mate with the flower itself. During this mistaken interaction, the insect presses against small structures that attach packets of pollen to its body. These orchids often mimic the exact texture and tiny hair patterns of their target species and release chemical signals that match the scent of a potential mate. When the confused male visits another orchid of the same species, it unintentionally delivers the pollen to the perfect spot. The orchid gains precise pollination without offering nectar. The insect gains nothing but the illusion of a partner. Some flowers measure daylight with extraordinary accuracy. Plants keep time without clocks, and many blossoms rely on this internal rhythm to know exactly when to open or close. Within their cells, networks of genes and proteins create a biological oscillation that responds to cycles of light and darkness. As the seasons shift, the length of daylight changes little by little and the plant notices certain species form buds only when days reach a specific duration, while others open at nearly the same hour each day, even beneath cloudy skies. This timing often matches the daily habits of their most important pollinators, or the safest moments in their environment. By linking flowering to precise measurements of day length, these plants conserve energy and synchronize their reproduction with the rhythm of their ecosystem. Keeping time through chemistry alone. Some flowers temporarily trap insects to ensure pollination. For certain plants, a brief visit isn't enough. Their blossoms are built as small chambers that gently confine insects just long enough to guarantee effective pollen transfer. A beetle or fly enters, drawn by scent or color, only to find that the exit has narrowed or closed behind it. Slippery walls, inward-pointing hairs, or shifting petals make escape difficult. Inside, the surfaces are arranged so that the insect brushes against reproductive structures as it moves. After a set interval often, when pollen is ready, or stigmas have become receptive, the flower relaxes or changes shape, releasing the visitor. When the insect enters another flower of the same species, the process repeats. The temporary inconvenience for the insect results in far more reliable pollination for the plant. Certain flowers release pollen in tiny explosive bursts. Not every flower scatters pollen gently. Some store their pollen under tension, like a spring waiting to snap. When the right trigger arrives, a vibration, a touch, or the buzz of a specific insect, a structure releases suddenly. Pollen shoots outward in a brief cloud, coating the pollinator or dispersing into the air with far more force than passive release could achieve. In some species, specialized anthers twist as they dry, then burst open when conditions are just right. This strategy allows the plant to control the timing of pollen release with remarkable precision, delivering concentrated bursts exactly when visitors arrive. A quiet mechanical engineering trick hidden inside a flower. Some aquatic flowers warm themselves like tiny heaters. A few water-dwelling plants generate gentle warmth inside their blossoms, even while floating in cold ponds or mud. Their flowers contain active tissues that speed up metabolic reactions in one area, releasing heat that warms the immediate surroundings. This warmth helps scents travel farther across still water, allowing fragrance to drift where wind cannot carry it. It also encourages pollinators often sluggish in cold weather to land and move more actively inside the bloom. The temperature difference is subtle but significant, influencing both insect behavior and the development of pollen. By creating a stable pocket of warmth, these plants succeed in environments where cold water slows nearly everything else. Some flowers communicate through airborne chemicals. Certain plants send messages into the air when they open, close, or face stress. These messages are made of drifting molecules that nearby flowers of the same species can detect. When one plant senses a change such as sudden shade, a temperature shift, or rise in humidity, it releases a faint chemical signal carried by the breeze. Neighboring flowers respond by adjusting their own timing or scent before the change reaches them. This communication isn't spoken or heard, but it allows scattered individuals to behave in a coordinated way. By sharing simple signals, they reduce wasted energy and ensure that pollinators arrive when nectar is at its best. A quiet chemical conversation linking flowers into a responsive network. Some flowers bloom only at night and depend on moonlight. These blossoms remain closed throughout the day, opening only when darkness falls. Their pale petals reflect moonlight, making them visible to moths and other nocturnal visitors. Rather than relying on bright daytime colors, they use drifting, powerful fragrances that travel far through cool night air. Their nectar often becomes richer after sunset, offering a rewarding meal to the few creatures navigating by scent, touch, and faint glimmers of light. Many of these flowers open shortly after dusk and close before dawn, protecting delicate tissues from daytime heat and aligning perfectly with the nighttime schedule of their pollen. This night-only rhythm helps these flowers survive in places full of daytime competition. By opening under moonlight instead of sunlight, they carve out a quiet ecological niche one, shaped by stillness, cool air, and the gentle movement of nocturnal life. Some flowers move with delicate precision to touch their pollen. Certain blossoms don't simply wait for an insect to bump into them. Their inner parts shift the moment they detect pressure or vibration, tilting or bending with careful control, so pollen lands exactly where it needs to go. The motions are small, so quick and subtle that most people never notice them. A stamen may swing gently inward. A petal might lean toward the visitor. A hidden, level-like structure may release tension, changing the bloom's shape in an instant. These mechanical adjustments increase the accuracy of pollen transfer and reduce wasted grains drifting into the air. They also discourage nectar thieves from taking a sip without contributing to pollination. The flower behaves almost like a tiny machine, with moving parts that activate only under the right conditions. Together, the plant and its pollinator perform a silent choreography. Some tropical flowers bloom directly from tree trunks. In dense forests, where sunlight rarely reaches the ground, certain species use a strategy known as trunk flowering. Instead of sending blossoms toward the canopy, they grow them along the thick bark of the trunk and major branches. This brings the flowers directly into the paths of animals that climb or walk along trees' fruit bats. Beetles, monkeys, and small mammals. The blossoms may be large, strongly scented, or tough enough to withstand frequent contact. Many of their fruits grow straight from the trunk as well, supported by strong wood rather than thin branches. The entire tree becomes a vertical garden interacting with wildlife on many levels, a remarkable adaptation that fits the architecture of their surroundings. Some flowers form partnerships with a single pollinator species. A few plants rely entirely on one type of creature to complete their reproductive cycle. Their blossoms evolve precise shapes, scents, and schedules that match the behavior and body design of that single partner. A floral tube might be the exact length needed for one bird's beak or one insect's tongue. Anthers may sit at the perfect height to touch a specific visitor and no one else. While this narrow dependency seems risky, it ensures nearly perfect pollen transfer. The animal benefits to it, receives a reliable food source that few competitors can access. Over long periods, the plant and pollinator shape each other, forming a quiet and exclusive bond between two very different lives. Some flowers sense humidity and adjust their fragrance. Moist air carries scent farther than dry air, and certain blossoms take advantage of this. Special cells in their petals detect tiny changes in humidity. When the air becomes damp, the plant increases its fragrance output, letting scent travel farther through the environment. When conditions dry out, it reduces the release to save energy. This shift aligns with the routines of pollinators that prefer particular weather conditions for flying. By tuning their scent to match the atmosphere, the plant increases its chances of being discovered without unnecessary effort. It's a subtle reminder that flowers respond to far more than light and temperature. They listen to moisture itself. Some flowers mimic dewdrops to attract curious insects. Certain blossoms create shiny, bead-like structures on their petals that resemble tiny droplets of morning dew. Two small insects searching for water or glittering visual cues. These false droplets are irresistible. When they land to investigate, they brush against pollen or follow the reflective shapes deeper into the bloom. The illusion works because the beads catch light the same way real dew would. They're not filled with water often. They are made of waxy reflective tissues, but the effect is convincing. In dry environments where real droplets are rare, this trick becomes especially useful. The flower creates a visual lure that draws in visitors who might not have come otherwise. Some flowers use electrical fields to communicate with bees. The air around a bloom can hold a faint electric charge, and bees are surprisingly sensitive to these subtle differences. As a bee draws near, its natural electrical charge interacts with the subtle field surrounding a flower. Certain blossoms are shaped in ways that create unique electrical signatures patterns that reveal whether the bloom has been recently visited or still holds a rich supply of nectar. Bees sense these invisible cues instantly, helping them pick the most rewarding flowers without wasting effort. When a bee touches the bloom, the flower's electrical state briefly shifts, leaving a temporary signal for the next visitor. This silent electrical dialogue adds an extra layer of communication beyond scent or color, on unseen channel through which plants share crucial information with the creatures that pollinate them. Some flowers sculpt their petals to act as natural acoustic amplifiers. Kurbit or cup-shaped blossoms can enhance the vibrations created by approaching insects, functioning like tiny echo chambers tuned to certain frequencies. When a pollinator flies close, the sound reverberates inside the petals, helping the plant detect the visitor's presence. These amplified vibrations may trigger internal responses such as boosting nectar flow or readying reproductive structures. Pollinators may also benefit, as the shape of the flower can reflect sound in ways that help them locate the bloom or isali. Over countless generations, these structures have been refined into delicate instruments plants that listen to the acoustic world and react accordingly. Some blossoms rely on reflective petals to shine in dim environments, in shadowed forests, along twilight paths, or during the first and last light of the day. Certain flowers use layered petal structures that scatter and rebound incoming light. Tiny ridges, folds, and air-filled pockets act like countless miniature mirrors, turning weak sunlight into a soft glow. Too many insects whose vision exceeds human sensitivity's glowing surfaces stand out dramatically against dark, pale or metallic-colored blossoms reflect especially well, attracting pollinators that remain active when most other flowers fade into darkness. Reflective petals transform scarce light into a dependable beacon. High-altitude flowers often protect themselves with hairy petals that act as natural insulation. Alpine environments swing rapidly between warmth and freezing winds, so some blossoms grow fine layers of fuzz that trap a cushion of still air. This thin blanket slows heat loss and shields delicate tissues from frost. The small hairs also scatter intense UV radiation common in mountain regions, guarding pigments and pollen from damage. For insects, the slightly warmer landing surface encourages longer visits and more active movement within the flower. These hairy coverings are not just decorative, they're an evolved survival strategy for life in a volatile climate. Many flowers craft nectar far more complex than simple sweetness. Hidden deep within some blossoms is a biochemical mixture of sugars, amino acids, ions, and specialized compounds that subtly influence pollinator behavior. Certain ingredients enhance memory, helping bees recognize and return to the same bloom. Others adjust the thickness or energy content of nectar, shaping how quickly pollinators feed. Some flowers even alter the formula over time. Early nectar may encourage exploration, while later nectar keeps visitors calm once enough pollen has been transferred. Microbes living in the nectar contribute additional chemical layers. Pollinators don't consciously interpret these messages, but they respond predictably. Through chemistry, the plant gently guides its partners toward behaviors that maximize successful reproduction. Some flowering plants send their seeds on long journeys, using water as their transport system. Along coasts, lake edges, and riverbanks, seeds develop buoyant traits air pockets, spongy layers, or water-resistant coats that allow them to float. When fruits split open, the seeds drop into the water and begin drifting with currents. Some travel downstream for great distances. Others move with tides until they settle in promising soil. Tough outer layers protect the developing embryo from salt, decay, and temperature shifts. Through this method, a single plant can spread offspring across distant shorelines, islands, or river bends. Each bloom becomes a launch point of a quiet voyage across shifting waters. A few extraordinary flowers can bloom while still buried beneath snow. As winter softens its hold just slightly, underground bulbs or storage routes awaken after months of cold. Even with a frozen surface above them, they begin pushing new shoots upward. The growing tip produces enough metabolic warmth to melt a narrow channel through the snow, allowing the flower to rise before spring has fully arrived. These early bloomers take advantage of a moment when competition is low and the world is still asleep, turning harsh conditions into an opportunity. By the time a bud emerges above the soil, it may still be surrounded by snow and chilled winds. Yet, the flower opens anyway. These early bloomers take advantage of sunlight that is not yet blocked by leaves, and of pollinators with very few other options for food. Snow-resistant petals are often thick and waxy, shielding delicate reproductive structures from freezing moisture. The entire strategy is a race to make the most of the first workable days of the year. Some flowers create gentle microclimates, inside their blooms. Step into the cup or funnel of certain blossoms, and the air inside is noticeably different from the outside world if you are small enough to notice. Petals that curve, overlap, or form protective roofs trap wind, raise humidity, and absorb sunlight, releasing it as soft warmth held close by the flower. Within this shelter pocket, temperatures fluctuate less, keeping pollen hydrated and stigmas receptive. For insects, these microclimates provide a calmer, milder resting place. On cool mornings, a bee can warm up quickly inside. On hot afternoons, the slightly cooler, moister air reduces stress. By investing in this internal architecture, plants encourage visitors to stay longer, increasing the chance of successful pollination. The blossom becomes a tiny room with its own climate controls. Some flowers grow only on slopes facing certain directions. Across hills and valleys, north-facing slopes differ dramatically from south-facing ones, even over short distances. Sunlight strikes at different angles, evaporation rates vary, and soil may stay warmer or cooler depending on exposure. Certain species are so precisely adapted that they appear only on slopes facing a particular direction. Seeds may germinate successfully only when snow melts at the right pace, or sunlight arrives with a specific intensity. Roots expect a particular moisture pattern, created by the slope's daily exposure to light. As a result, populations form narrow bands along hillsides, tracing invisible lines of temperature, light, and water. To an observer, it might seem almost magical that a flower disappears as soon as the hill changes. In reality, it's a sign of incredibly precise environmental tuning. Some flowers time their blooming to avoid competition. In busy ecosystems where many species share the same pollinators, some plants use timing rather than color or size to stand out. They open earlier or later than others, or in specific windows when few blooms compete. This reduces signal clutter and increases the likelihood that pollinators focus on their blossoms. Internal cues: day length, accumulated warmth, rainfall patterns trigger these schedules. Entire populations may bloom together, creating a brief period of dominance. Once pollination is complete, the flowers fade just as other species begin. By staggering their flowering, plants share pollinators without direct competition, each taking its turn in the spotlight. Some flowers hide nectar deep within narrow tubes. Rather than offering rewards on an open surface, certain plants tuck nectar at the bottom of elongated floral tubes. Only animals with the right tools, long-tongued bees, hawk moths, or slender-billed birds can reach it. As a pollinator probes the tube, its head or body brushes precisely against the anthers and stigma positioned near the entrance. Pollen attaches exactly what it needs to go for the next flower. By pairing hidden nectar with exact geometry, the plant ensures effective pollination while protecting its valuable resource from casual visitors. The tube becomes a gatekeeper shaping the entire pollination partnership. Some flowers change color based on soil chemistry. In certain species, petal color is not fixed, but reflects the soil they grow in. Pigments shift depending on acidity, alkalinity, and mineral content. Water drawn from mineral-rich soil alters the internal chemistry of petal cells, producing shades from soft pink to deep violet or bright blue. Gardeners often notice the same plant showing different colors in different beds, or gradual shifts as soil changes. In the wild, this ability can influence which pollinators are attracted or how well the flower blends with its surroundings. Each bloom becomes a living indicator of the hidden chemistry beneath it. Some flowers thrive in volcanic landscapes. On fresh lava flows or ash-covered ground, life seems nearly impossible. Yet, certain flowering plants establish themselves before most other species return. They anchor roots into tiny crevices where moisture and minerals collect after rare rains. As volcanic ash breaks down, it provides slow-release nutrients, creating pockets that the plants exploit before competitors arrive. These flowers bloom quickly during short windows of favorable weather, completing their reproductive cycles despite intense heat or sudden cold. Their roots stabilize loose debris, gradually turning barren land into surfaces suitable for future plants. In these harsh environments, flowers show extraordinary resilience, adapting and rebuilding the foundations of the ecosystem. Some flowers attract pollinators, using heat instead of color. Certain blossoms create subtle patterns of warmth in their petals or central structures, forming infrared signals that insects can detect. These thermal cues guide visitors toward nectar and pollen, even in dim or shaded conditions. The warmth comes from concentrated metabolic activity within the flower, acting like tiny furnaces inside each bloom. During peak activity, the flower increases heat output to create a stronger signal. When fewer pollinators are around, the warmth diminishes to conserve energy. Temperature-based signals can be easier for insects to detect than visual changes, especially in dense vegetation. In some cases, these thermozones even help pollinators warm their flight muscles before taking off. By offering both guidance and comfort, the flower encourages visitors to linger, increasing the likelihood of effective pollen transfer. This is an elegant example of how plants can communicate invisibly with the living world. Some flowers have microscopic mirrors embedded in their petals. Tiny reflective structures, arranged in precise layers, redirect light to intensify brightness or create subtle iridescent flashes. These natural mirrors can amplify a single color or change hue, depending on the viewing angle, and they are built from clear cells and air spaces formed through natural growth. For pollinators with sensitive vision, the shimmering effect highlights the flower against its background. At the same time, these reflections protect delicate inner tissues by deflecting excessive sunlight. Each petal becomes both a signal and a shield, demonstrating how flowers can manipulate light at microscopic levels to improve survival and reproduction. Some flowers use Velcro-like surfaces to guide pollen. Tiny hooks or barbs on petals catch gently onto the bodies of visiting insects, holding them in place just long enough to ensure precise pollen transfer. The hooks are flexible, allowing the insect to move safely, yet structured to slow its progress across anthords and stigmas, positioned for maximum contact. This slows down nectar thieves, while encouraging legitimate pollinators to engage fully with the flower. When the task is complete, the insect can pull free easily. Here, texture alone orchestrates behavior, creating a controlled exchange between animal and plant without traps or force. Some flowers survive fire and bloom after the ash settles. In fire-prone ecosystems, certain species depend on flames to trigger new growth. While the visible plant may burn, underground structures protected from heat remain dormant. After the fire, nutrients from burned vegetation enrich the soil and open the landscape to sunlight, signaling the hidden tissues to awaken. Some seeds require chemicals from smoke to break dormancy, ensuring they sprout only when conditions favor survival. The resulting blooms often appear in large groups, attracting pollinators searching for food in the newly cleared environment. This is not mere survival, it's a life cycle designed to use fire as a catalyst, allowing these flowers to claim the land at the optimal moment. Some flowers manipulate airflow to spread their scent more effectively. Petal shapes and structures can channel breezes, lift aromas upward, or create subtle vortices that guide fragrance to pollinators with precision. Even small ridges or curves can influence the movement of air, turning the flower into a miniature device for scent distribution. These adaptations conserve energy by making fragrance travel farther without extra production. Pollinators benefit from clear odor trails that efficiently lead them to the bloom. In this way, flowers communicate with the atmosphere itself, turning scent into a tool for survival. Certain flowers protect their pollen with natural sunscreen. While sunlight is vital for growth, it can harm delicate pollen grains. To guard against ultraviolet damage, some blossoms produce molecules that absorb harmful rays before they reach reproductive structures. These compounds settle in the outer layers of petals and anthers, forming a shield that remains stable even during long hours of exposure. This natural protection ensures that pollen stays viable, giving the flower the best chance for successful reproduction in bright, sunny habitats. Many of these protective pigments also influence visible color, contributing to deep blues, rich purples, or warm reds. As sunlight intensifies, the flower may increase production of these molecules, strengthening its defenses during the hottest part of the day. By safeguarding pollen from ultraviolet injury, the plant ensures that grains remain viable when carried to the next bloom. This built-in defense system shows how flowers combine beauty with function, transforming vivid color into a line of protection for their most delicate structures. There are flowers that grow on rocks with almost no soil. Certain species flourish in environments where soil is nearly absent, clinging to steep cliffs and stone walls that most plants cannot tolerate. Their roots search for microscopic pockets of dust and mineral fragments trapped in cracks. Over time, the roots widen these spaces as they grow, slowly creating a more stable foothold. Because nutrients are scarce, these plants grow slowly and allocate resources carefully. Their leaves may be thick, waxy, or reduced in size to conserve water. Despite these challenges, they produce blossoms that attract pollinators, traveling along rock faces or windy ridges. The flowers often bloom during brief periods, when moisture is present, taking advantage of every rare opportunity. Their persistence transforms barren stone into living habitat. These cliff dwellers demonstrate how little a plant truly needs when it is adapted perfectly to extremes. Some flowers hide their own scent from predators, while many blossoms rely on fragrance to attract others must avoid drawing unwanted attention from animals that might damage them. These species release scent only in specific directions or only within enclosed spaces formed by their petals. A pollinator that enters the chamber can detect the aroma easily, yet predators outside smell very little. Some flowers alter their scent chemistry so that nectar-carrying notes remain undetectable until a trusted visitor is physically close. Others release fragrance only during short windows of time when certain threats are inactive. These strategies allow the plant to communicate selectively, ensuring that its signals reach those who help rather than those who harm. Scent becomes a controlled resource, used with care to balance attraction and protection. Certain flowers use petal temperature to attract insects. Warmth can serve as a powerful invitation, and some blossoms create temperatures higher than the surrounding air. Petals absorb sunlight efficiently, or the plant concentrates metabolic activity in specific tissues that radiate gentle heat. This warmth becomes a beacon to insects that benefit from elevated body temperature, especially in cool climates or early morning hours. A pollinator landing on such a bloom, they remain longer than it would in a cold environment, exploring the structure more thoroughly and interacting with pollen in more effective patterns. The warm petals also help volatile scent molecules rise into the air, increasing the distance over which the flower can be detected. By offering thermal comfort, these flowers increase their chances of being visited repeatedly. Their temperature-based strategy blends energy management, attraction, and timing into one subtle but powerful advantage. Some flowers have built-in lenses that focus light. Certain blossoms contain petal tissues, arranged in smooth curves that shape and redirect sunlight the moment it touches their surface. These natural lenses concentrate brightness toward the hidden reproductive structures of the center of the bloom. Bedoing tis the flower keeps pollen warmer and more active during cool mornings or cloudy periods, when temperatures normally limit its effectiveness. Plant cells create this effect by forming layers with slightly different densities, which causes light to bend gently as it passes through. The focus glow can also appear as a subtle shimmer, visible to insects that are drawn to bright contrast. Some pollinators respond strongly to differences in light intensity, so flowers that reflect light in a focused way create practical signals rather than just visual flair. This strategy allows the plant to attract visitors without producing large amounts of pigment, conserving valuable energy. It is especially effective in shaded areas where light is weak and scattered. Through precise cellular structure and growth, the flower becomes a miniature optical device that supports nearly every aspect of its reproductive strategy. Some flowers thrive in total darkness within caves, deep in caverns where sunlight never penetrates. A few rare species survive by forming unusual partnerships. Instead of relying on photosynthesis, they draw nutrients from underground fungi that break down organic matter carried in by dripping water or wandering animals. The plants provide stability and shelter, while the fungi supply essential minerals and carbon compounds extracted from decaying debris. Without the need for chlorophyll, these flowers appear pale, ghost-like, or translucent. Their thick petals withstand constant humidity, and lingering scents guide cave insects that navigate primarily by touch and smell. Color is less important here. Instead, the plant invests in texture and fragrance. Some blooms open only when temperature and moisture reach a precise balance that may last only a short time. Proving that darkness does not prevent the cycle of life, simply demands unique adaptations. Some flowers offer caffeinated nectar to influence pollinator memory. Certain blossoms produce nectar containing mild natural stimulants, including caffeine, created through specialized biochemical pathways. When insects drink this nectar, their ability to remember scents, petal shapes, and flight paths improves. The effect is subtle but significant. Pollinators that remember a particular flower well are more likely to return, ensuring repeated visits and increasing the chances of successful pollen transfer. The flower benefits without needing to provide extra nectar, and the stimulant does not harm the visitor. It simply enhances learning in the insect's nervous system, making the bloom stand out among competing flowers. Over time, this builds a pattern of loyalty, guiding pollinators back to the same species repeatedly. This is an elegant example of plants shaping behavior purely through chemistry. Some aquatic flowers create floating highways for insects. Certain water plants produce blossoms that rest on pond or marsh surfaces. Broad, sturdy petals act as platforms, allowing beetles and other crawling insects to traverse the water without sinking. These pathways guide visitors toward the flower's center, where scent, texture, and warmth encourage exploration. Petals distribute weight efficiently, supporting even heavier insects, and subtle slopes or glossy patches help direct movement and reflect light to make the bloom easier to find. Beetles moving from one flower to another collect and transfer pollen, turning the water itself into a vital part of the reproductive strategy. Each blossom becomes both a food source and a bridge, supporting life above the liquid surface. Some flowers use underground fungal networks to coordinate blooming. In forests and grasslands, flowering plants often connect to extensive mycorrhizal networks. These fungal strands transfer nutrients, minerals, and chemical signals between roots. When one plant detects a favorable change, such as increased moisture or the presence of beneficial microbes, it sends messages through the network. Other plants of the same species pick up these signals and adjust their blooming cycles accordingly, creating synchronized waves of flowers. This coordination increases the chance that pollinators encounter many blooms at once and helps conserve energy by preventing poorly timed flowering. The fungal network exchanges nutrients bidirectionally, strengthening the entire system. Blooming becomes a community decision, guided by information flowing silently beneath the soil, a hidden communication system more intricate than what occurs above. Certain flowers form precise partnerships with birds. Some species evolve to rely entirely on specific birds for pollination. Flower twos match the bird's beak, length, colors appeal to a vine vision, and nectar composition meets the high-energy demands of rapid flight. In return, the bird gains a dependable food source few competitors can access. This relationship is finely tuned. Blooming may coincide with migratory patterns, and feather placement, feeding posture, and wing movement influence exactly where pollen is deposited. The bird acts as a mobile bridge across landscapes, while the flower avoids the inefficiency of attracting multiple pollen over generations. This mutual reliance shapes both plant and bird, creating a sophisticated, interdependent partnership. Some flowers use sticky threads to capture airborne pollen, while many rely on insects or wind. A few species produce delicate threads inside their blooms to trap pollen floating in the air. These threads form a fine mesh along petals or between structures in narrow passageways. As air moves through, stray pollen grains of the same species get caught. The flower then uses gentle capillary forces or subtle petal movements to guide the pollen toward the receptive stigma. This passive strategy ensures successful pollination without the need for insects, traps, or energy-intensive rewards. As we drift through the quiet wonders of flowers, it becomes clear that each bloom is more than just beauty. Every petal, every scent, every subtle movement is part of a hidden dialogue with the world around it. Flowers listen, adapt, and communicate in ways that are often invisible to us, yet essential to life itself. Now, let your mind wander among these delicate marvels. Imagine the gentle warmth of a hidden bloom, the soft shimmer of petals in the shade, or the faint fragrance carried by a breeze. Allow the rhythm of their quiet, patient existence to soothe your thoughts. Breathe deeply, feel your body relax, and know that just like these flowers, you too are part of the gentle, interconnected world around you. Let this sense of wonder and calm carry you slowly into sleep, resting in the beauty and mystery of life unfolding all around you. Good night, and let the quiet magic of nature guide your dreams.